This video is sponsored by the Conestoga football team. Remember to please donate to support the show. Thank you and enjoy.
I've spent the past months protesting for my family, for my food, for the people.
I will always be on the streets fighting for my kids' freedom.
The violence of the government, the violence of the criminals, those are all reasons to go out and protest, to defend your rights and aspire to be a better Venezuela. This was not how Venezuela used to be. At one point in time, they were the richest country in Latin America, and they also have the largest oil reserves in the world, making oil an important part of their economy.
But currently, Venezuela has the highest inflation rate in the world, reaching up to over 25,000% as of May 2018. In addition, their consumer price index hit its max at 2,146.1 in 2015.
But this all begs the question as to what happened, and when. Find out more as we go through Venezuela's history on the Lee and Presto Podcast.
So, let's get back to the beginning of Venezuela's peak, back with former President Hugo Chavez. See, Chavez was cherished among the people because he blamed government corruption and elitists for the inequality in wealth and was thus promptly elected.
The main thing to take note of, however, is the sudden increase in oil prices, which, seeing that Venezuela already relied heavily on oil, strengthened their economy by a vast amount. With this overall increase came an increase in welfare spending. Chavez spent billions on food subsidies, education, healthcare, and it ultimately ended up halving the poverty rate.
While doing all of these things most certainly helped the poor, they also helped Chavez as well by ensuring that he remains in power. However, by heavily relying on oil while still spending such a burdensome amount, Venezuela's deficit was constantly growing, which also meant that a drop in oil prices would be an enormous blow.
Well, see, unfortunately for them, immediately after Chavez's passing, Maduro was elected and oil prices plummeted. They went from as high as $151 per barrel to a sudden $48 a barrel in 2014. And now all of a sudden, government support was gone and the poverty rate rose to 82%. In addition, Maduro set in place a currency exchange rate at 10 bolivars to $1, but only himself and close party members can use this. For average citizens, their rate is about 12,000 to 1.
As you can clearly tell, Venezuela took a hard fall, and the corruption mixed with the dying economy is not helping anyone.
Man, well, now that we got the history portion out of the way, we can now dive into the statistics.
So, starting off our list, Venezuela, in terms of bolivars, has a GDP per capita of 1,355, and 30% of its population eat only once a day.
Wow, so shocking. Well, did you know that Venezuela has an economic freedom score of 25.2, putting it at 179th place?
Wow, that is pretty garbage. Well, here's one for you. For every 100,000 persons, 91 are murdered, which is worse than some infamous areas such as Chicago and Detroit.
Man, that's some pretty crazy stuff. Did you know that 2.3 million people left the country in 2014?
Wow, that is hard to believe. Anyways, let's shift over to our next segment, Guys on Economics, where we discuss your questions.
So our first question comes in from Scott from Arizona. He says, "Sup, boys, especially Mike.
Sup?
What's up with this Maduro guy? He sounds like a real idiot." Well, basically, when Maduro came into power in 2013, Venezuela's main export was oil, and Maduro worked to continue that legacy. However, when the oil prices plummeted, he did nothing about it, and thus, Venezuela dug an insurmountable hole. Mike, you got the next question.
Alright, so this one's from Alex down in Washington. He says, "Alright, is it true Maduro ate at Salt Bay's restaurant? That's really messed up, man." And yes, sadly, this is true. Maduro, he did recently eat at the famous chef Salt Bay's restaurant, which created tons of uproar from people across the country for him spending his money on an extremely expensive dinner rather than helping his own country. Maduro is living in extravagance while his country suffers.
All right, our final question comes in from Justin from Philadelphia. Hey, so what's the deal with all these national account indicators? Do they or do they not determine a nation's aggregate economic performance? Well, there really is no simple answer. I would say it's yes and no. In some cases, they do not, such as China, for example. However, for Venezuela, I'd ultimately argue that they do, seeing that their stats are pretty terrible, and it shows. You don't even have to look at the indicators to see that Venezuela is suffering.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
All right, folks, well, that's going to do it today for the Lee and Presto Podcast. Join us next week where we discuss whether or not economics is actually a thing.
Peace.